Welcome back, everyone, to the last series that we have on our hands here in the APAC region for the last week here for the Summer Showdown qualifiers. I'm excited, Alvaro, after that first series that we had on our hands. We highlighted exactly what we're looking forward to, though, looking at the Shanghai Dragons versus the LA Valiant.
It's been a tough stage so far for the LA Valiant. They are currently winless. They haven't gotten a single win so far, 0-4. They got a lot of maps in there, and you know their map differential doesn't look that bad, given that their scoreline is 0-4. But it's because they keep going to map 5s against teams. I mean, they had a map 5 versus Fusion. They had a map 5 versus the Guangzhou Charge. And then, well, they also had a 0-3 versus Seoul, but that's versus Seoul. That's kind of understandable. They took one map versus Spark, couldn't take that one to 5. So far, though, they just haven't had the greatest of chances to qualify through. But here's the crazy thing, Vicky. Again, I've done the maths here for qualification. It is still not impossible for the Valiant to make the tournament. There's a line of play for them to make the tournament, and it would require them to basically be in either a 3-way or a 4-way tie between other teams in a 2-4 scoreline. The best scoreline now that they can get is 2-4. That would require them to beat Shanghai today in this matchup, and would require them to win against the Chengdu Hunters in the other matchup there as well. Chengdu look kind of beatable right now, especially given the performance today. However, Shanghai, I don't know if they look beatable. So really, for Valiant, they need to win big today. Hopes that some other teams win and lose in very specific ways to end up in a 2-4 scoreline. And only then is it possible for Valiant's dreams to come alive and finally make a tournament, because they haven't made a tournament this entire year.
It's unfortunate, too, because they started really kicking things up a bit. But when you have to go against the Dragons here on a weekend where it means everything, whether you qualify or not, this could spell doom. Very similar to the series that they had with Seoul. These two teams, Seoul and the Shanghai Dragons, have just been dominating the APAC region so far. They've honestly just are on a different level. If I could put them just above the rest, it's just there's like 2 tier breaks basically with where this team is, because they've just been dominating. They've been dominating. They really seem like the two teams that have nailed down the meta right now with the Junker Queen. And I feel like right now with what we're expecting from the Dragons, it's going to be incredibly difficult for the LA Valiant to really put themselves on board to at least try to achieve that tiebreaker.
And that's the thing, right? Because they needed to win versus somebody else, and they had 2 very close calls in terms of trying to win versus somebody else. It just hasn't happened, and now one of those 2 wins has to come from the Dragons. And it's difficult imagining the Dragons losing the series, given how far ahead in the meta they seem compared to everybody else. Their team is on a different level, as you mentioned. Then with Seoul, Dragons have only dropped a single map so far. It's looking more than an uphill battle, to be honest, for the LA Valiant. I'm not going to say it's impossible, because there can be miracles out here, but you can also, I guess, buy a lottery ticket. It's not impossible, but it's going to be pretty tough out there. Let's take a look at the starting lineups here, as I don't think there'll be any surprises. Both teams have played the exact same players with no substitutions over the course of the entire stage. You already know how it's going to be. Void on the Junker Queen. Who are you coming through on the Genji? And I know how much you like to see the Genji plays out there, Vicky. Who are you right now is, I think, at the top of the list.
Absolutely, with those amazing Genji plays. And we got to talk about Void. When you mentioned Void as Junker Queen, the insane survivability that he's got on Junker Queen is just another level. This entire team has just been dominating for a reason. There's a reason why they're currently number 2 in the overall standing. So excited to see how this is going to play out here for the Dragons, if they're looking to try to just wrap things up with another day at work for them to walk away, or the Valiant really going to come out of left field for us to see.
Yeah, Dragons, really the scoreline here is, if you want to be talking realistically, what should be happening here, we should be talking about scorelines, because Seoul did beat Valiant 3-0. Dragons are trying to catch up to Seoul. They're trying to make sure that they are on equal footing with Seoul. Likely how it's going to round out is whoever wins in the Dragon-Seoul matchup at the end of the qualifiers here will be the first seed. So that's the most important thing, but also getting some confidence here. Make sure they're not losing too hard to the Valiant is important here as well. Let's take a look at the Valiant side and the competition on the other end. You talked about Void on the Junker Queen. I think one of the hidden gems of the Overwatch League so far in this sort of stage is Dia's role swap over towards the Junker Queen himself. That's been quite a pleasant surprise, and Dia's looked like one of the better Junker Queens, and sure, Valiant's had their rough moments as well, but generally speaking, I think Dia's been leading the charge. He's been kind of quite a force to be reckoned with on this Junker Queen. There is one interesting thing that I'm going to bring up here, and is that we are going to be seeing Molly. So a substitution coming in play for the LA Valiant. They actually haven't been playing with Molly in this particular meta so far. It's been Sashin and Lengset together. Sashin had also role swap from tank over towards support. Sashin actually played DPS at one stage, so now that he's playing his third role, right? He was playing the Brig. Lengset was playing the Lucio. So I guess this means Molly's playing the Brig. Lengset will stay on the Lucio. And Molly will debut in this stage finally.
Gonna have to see. Making some of those swaps, though, I'm wondering, what do you think here, Avril, with making that swap with Sashin not being the one starting off things off with LA Valiant? What they're maybe expecting from Molly here?
I think they're just maybe losing a bit of confidence in Sashin's Brig. I don't know if that is the sore point for the team, but clearly the team is not quite working out the way they want it to work out, so they're thinking, okay, well, we have Molly available, he is a support player. A lot of other teams, in fact most other teams, have played their flex support on the Brig. Can't really go wrong here. This is a Dragons game. Valiant know that they're probably not expected to beat the Dragons, so it would be a huge upset if they were able to beat the Dragons. Why not give Molly a go? You know, this is kind of warm-up for them to try and take down the Hunters. I think for them it's just about getting league points, right? Even if they don't make the tournament, which is a likelihood that they probably won't make the tournament, the important thing is to work towards the end of season where, again, you're trying to avoid 7th place. And Charge just got 1 extra point today to get ahead of the Valiant. So now, Charge have actually escaped 7th place. Valiant are currently in the standings in APAC in 7th for the entire season. So Valiant need to catch up. They need to beat the Hunters as well. And if they want to keep running Molly, this will be the first kind of test for Molly. Very difficult test, mind you, but it is a time that they can at least try something different.
It's going to be important there, too, to note, because with the Charge and the Valiant being so close together in the overall standings, now that you want to work towards that overall score, that's really the one thing that they have to keep in mind is the Charge and the Hunters being those two teams that they want to make sure that don't get too ahead of them, especially if the Charge actually end up being the team to make it into the Summer Showdown tournament. So that's going to be extra the points for them. They're going to be able to feel more secure in the overall standings, and the LA Valiant need to start focusing on the later game here.
And the other interesting thing about this as well is that there's a bunch of members from Valiant that actually have a bit of connection to Shanghai. Notably, we're talking about Dia here, but also Molly. Both of these players actually played for Shanghai at various points. Molly was with the Shanghai Dragons last year. Technically, he has a win with them. He's got an entire championship ring from the Overwatch League. Dia was with them in the first 2 seasons, mostly benched in the 2nd season there. But even guys like EasyHan, who played for Team CC, you know, that was the Shanghai Dragons Academy team. They got Innovation on the bench who play for Team CC as well, so a little bit of connection here. We had some connection between Guangzhou and Chengdu Hunters. That was a very obvious connection, being that 8 of those players had played together last year. But here as well, you know, just a little bit of friendly cross integration between players have been moved between teams.
We've been seeing that a lot today, haven't we, Avro? It's been interesting nonetheless, because I also feel like it adds in that extra spice to kind of make things fun here for a lot of our players. But there is a lot on the line, and once again, this is the last week to qualify into the Summer Showdown tournament. So a lot on the table here, but it's that extra stress that I would be feeling if I were the LA Valiant right now, especially if you have to go against a team like the Dragons as your first series to open up the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's on some level you're stressed, but on some level this is the one game that you can sort of chill out a little bit. Not to say that they won't give it their best, they absolutely will be giving it their best, and if they can take any maps away, that's a huge win, because, you know, in that sort of battle with Guangzhou, trying to escape 7th place, if they do end up with the same scoreline, map differential and tiebreakers come into play, right? So Valiant have been good at least getting maps off of other teams. That's been one of their strengths, even if they don't necessarily win all the matches. So yeah, this is the one again where they don't necessarily expect to win, but it is a practice run up against Hunters later on, which is going to be an important game for standings. So I don't know that they're going to be like super stressed out about this game. They'll give it their best, see what happens, try and make an upset happen, but if it doesn't happen, then, you know, you can't be too upset about it. So
We're going to see how this plays out here as we get set up. Our players are getting ready to go. quick recap of that first series. Surprise, it did end in a 3-0. I was expecting it to go the distance before preparing us for the series that we're about to dive into between the Dragons and the Valiant. Wondering how many maps the Valiant could at least try to claim off of the Dragons and see if they even have that opportunity. Like you mentioned, they've been doing really well at least taking some of these maps away from some of these higher end teams. But when it comes to the Dragons, again, just a different beast next to Seoul on the level of where the other APAC teams have been. And I do think that has to go down to the way that the Dragons and the Dynasty have been able to approach this meta. I feel like they just have a lot more of an understanding. But honestly, with the way that we're currently seeing teams like Charge and making some of these roster changes, and the way that we're seeing Choice of One, for example, pop off Jimmy as well right behind him, I feel like it's kind of allowing these other teams now to really kick things up a lot to try to catch up.
And this also might be the final time you get to see the players of the Valiant have these role swaps as well, because I think going into next meta with Junker Queen looking to be quite heavily nerfed, or just be nerfed enough that she probably won't end up being a vital place in the meta anymore. We're not going to see the Dia Queen, so this is the last weekend of games where the Dia Queen is going to be a factor. And, you know, hopefully they all get at least one win, but unfortunately that would mean that they have to beat the Chengdu Hunters. Well, it's great for Valiant. It would be a sad way for Hunters to bow out, considering they were in a very good position to at least lock up third place, and now, you know, they'll be still kind of in contention for third place, but also looking at the fourth place there as well if they can get it. We'll just have to see how far they slide down, if they do it at all. Valiant are a really wild card team in this region. I think it really speaks heavily to the competitiveness of the region, in the sense that outside of Seoul and Shanghai in this particular meta in this stage, the other 5 teams are equally trading games at all points. Anybody can beat anybody. Nobody is safe. There are no free games. Even the LA Valiant's not a free game, because 2 teams had to go to 5 maps to beat the Valiant. That's definitely not a free game. That is a very contentious and difficult game to play. Valiant can surprise at any sort of point. Will just come down to this series today versus the Shanghai Dragons. Are there any surprises? Can we see something here that makes Shanghai Dragons a little bit worried? Can Valiant upset the Dragons? Can they slay the Dragons? Can anybody be the Dragon Slayers?
I don't know about that. We're going to have to see. I love how you mentioned the wild card point, because I feel like that's a lot of APAC. Philly Fusion come to mind when I think about wild card teams, just with the way that, you know, Philly does what Philly wants at the end of the day. But LA Valiant, like you mentioned, has been able to claim a lot of maps from a lot of these other teams, even taking that one map away from the Spark earlier on, going into that Game 5 versus Philly. And it's interesting to see how this is going to play out, if they are going to be able to do something similar like that to the Dragons, because every map counts at the end if you want to actually play for that long run in the overall standings.
Yep. And I think Dragons losing maps here would be a little bit awkward, but it wouldn't be the end of their run. Well, it definitely won't be the end of their run for this tournament, but it won't be super damaging for their battle for first place seeding-wise, because, again, the most important result to challenge that is going to be their game versus Seoul down the line. But for now, this should be, for the Dragons, a bit of a warm-up game if things go as expected. So far, things, at least in the lineup, are as expected. Thanks to Lucio, Molly over towards the Brig, placing Sash in today, and maybe for the rest of the weekend here as well. Shanghai, taking a bit of early damage. DJ got in trouble. Lip gets the first frag.
Welcome, Molly. Hope you're enjoying your stay here real quick, as he's the first one exiting out of this fight. Becky's going to follow shortly afterwards. Who are you? Already diving all the way in, leaving Dia low, leaving Linksa to back away, actually managing to survive, but the proing is going to be able to go in favor of the Dragons, with a number advantage being on their side.
Yep, Lee Jae-gon surviving. This guy also really likes to play at the edge, right? Where the edge between I'm about to feed versus I'm about to do something godlike, and it will be Lip getting that first kill. Lee Jae-gon survives. No deaths on the Dragons so far, as they get 3 frags, so Valiant will at least walk away with 2 alive when all is said and done. Dragons expectedly is going to be quite far ahead in some of the important ultimates.
And here comes that shout. Here comes that aggressive approach here from Who Are You. You're going to have to respect that disruptor shot a little bit before diving in, and that speed boost too to help enable Who Are You. Becky gets taken down, and so does Easy Han, and the Valiant are already getting pushed all the way back to their spawn. Void collects 2 here too, and the Dragons looking like they are chilling. Look at those player cams too, going right back to the point.
It's another 3 kills, another 0 deaths. And Dragons now getting all the ultimates that they need. Who Are You is well ahead of Becky. The only play on Valiant that's maybe ahead here is actually Dia versus Void, but maybe that's just the fight's ending too early for Void to do too much about it. Who Are You carrying out?
Carrying out with the blade and carrying Becky back to the spawn here too before diving in, trying to maybe go for an opportunity with the reset here too, but the follow from Void to help enable Who Are You. This two duo, as just players on the Dragons, are just so scary. See Leisure Gong going to be able to boost them all the way back to the next choke point, and it's rinse and repeat here for the Dragons.
Yeah, it'll be Lip going through for the overclock next, and it'll be hard to respond, right? Because if you're Valiant, you really want to use a support ultimate for that. If you don't, it's probably going to be last fight. Molly spins, but he's low already. Lip wants him down.
Ooh, here comes the shout, and here comes the sound barrier too to help keep Molly up and to help get more out of that rally. They do find Who Are You, which is pretty big here for the Valiant to turn things around to at least flip this point. Looking fantastic here. The way that they were able to cycle through the command shout, the sound barrier, and the rally actually has allowed Valiant to get 2 of those picks. Becky still goes down, unfortunately, without being able to utilize that Dragon Blade, but that's fine. You'll be able to go into that next fight with the Blade to hold back the Dragons to the choke point.
Yeah, 94% for the Dragons, but the Valiant do bounce back with the fight win. They double support ultimate there, which in some cases you could argue is a little bit of an over expenditure, and Dragons probably felt the same way, which is why Dragons played that fight so conservatively. They didn't use the sound barrier because they wanted to try and just, you know, live through the double support ultimates being spent by the Valiant, kind of just wait it out. Then if Becky maybe plays, use a sound barrier, that's going to happen probably in this fight now.
Or maybe waiting out on the opportunity, maybe trying to wait on the rampage here too from Dia. Yeah, actually just going to play patiently.
They just survive the blade. They just survive it.
Becky playing that incredibly patient though, and now with the Dragon surviving that and still holding on to the sound barrier, this is fantastic news to deal with the rampage, to deal with Easy Han and his ult here too. The Valiant now going to be able to try to take control over the side here, but the Dragons want the high ground. Zihan is going to be able to pop that ult as Dia is going to still hold on to the rampage too. You can see that contention with Lee Jae-gon. Who's the more patient one as the shout from the Dragons comes online? They're going to be able to move all the way down. But the shutdown immediately in his face. They knew the rampage was going to come. They were just waiting for it, Avril.
Watch the cap. It's come through now. Valiant have lost that. They have to touch, but they have no members alive. Liv's cleaned them all up. Liv's just taking control of the game. He destroys Dia. He sends the Valiant down towards the 0-1 mark of that. Shanghai Dragons with a celebratory rampage towards the end there from Void will happily collect that one. Look, it's not 100-0. You don't need to dominate your opponents here, but the Dragons still look to be largely ahead of the Valiant at all points. Even just the confidence to survive against a Blade. Becky pulls Blade. Dragon's like, let's disengage. Actually, you know what? Hold the sound barrier. Don't need that for this fight. We can save the sound barrier for a later engagement. They do. And the crazy thing is, Lip killing Dia still technically hit 2 members, so like it's like not quite a cancel rally, but he doesn't get to launch. He sort of gets maybe a couple centimeters off, just a few inches off from his starting position, catches 2 members, it'll be Void and Iziaki, maybe Void and somebody. Lee Jae-gon still has a sound barrier, Dia's down, Shanghai Dragons huge just player advantage, and Lip will clean up. Lip had the first blood, by the way, in that previous round. Let's see if he does it again.
Yeah, that was on to Molly earlier here too, as you see Lip now getting into a nice position. You see the Disruptor shot as well to control some of the space. Becky's the one to go down first, but some assistance here coming in from Lip as he also finds Dia. BJ gone on Becky's tail. That's 3 down here for the Valiant. Molly, Lynx are going to be able to try to back away in time as the Dragons win the first team fight again.
Yeah, and just another very comfortable fight win. They didn't drop any members, got a few kills there, they didn't get the full cleanup, but you know, they just take the expected dub, don't over pursue, they don't get overly aggressive. This is not a Shanghai Dragons that's kind of disrespecting the Valiant, right? They're playing super disciplined. And that's what a dangerous Shanghai Dragons looks like, because they're not offering up a lot of avenues to punish them by making mistakes. They're basically just not making any mistakes at all.
Ooh, Lip also finding Easy Han right there as he's forced inside that side room. Becky's going to punish Lip right there, so it's a trade for trade. Void falling pretty low, though, over to the side. Who Are You? Going to be able to try to heal for a bit as you see Molly now move all the way up. The Valiant finding that pick, though, don't really fully initiate here, though, too. Even Lexa falling low, he is going to be able to get away in time. But Who Are You putting in so much pressure, forcing the Valiant back a bit here in that next choke point.
Yeah, I think Valiant actually got a kill there as well, but Shanghai just were not to be perturbed as Valiant failed to really capitalize further on that, and now as Molly's felt at this rally, he's down. It's at least a trade.
Who Are You goes down as he's about to get that blade. He hasn't coming into that next fight, but this is great look here for Valiant to at least try to get that point once again. Now trying to flip it at 60% here in favor of the Dragons and climbing. Iziaki goes down, so does Void, but they're going to go in. He still managed to get the kill before going down here too, and here at Avril, they're also going to have a plethora of ultimates to work with for that next team fight.
Yeah, Lee Jae-gon will trade 10 seconds of a respawn for, I think, 1 extra percentage there on the cap point, but I think he was probably going to die anyway. Well, actually, I don't know. He is a Lucio. Maybe he can just run away. Shanghai Dragon's probably not going to be too concerned there. They'll have the 5 ultimates up in no time. Valiant will make this one a very heavy ultimate trade, though. Oh, especially if Easy Hunt can kill Lip. That actually might be Dragons disengaging. No, they're too deep in. They have to play now.
But it fell so low. Finding the skirmish in this side room has been really detrimental, even with Becky getting it with a huge rampage, finding 4 here. They were still able to keep themselves alive. Minus Dia going down here. Now the immediate reverse here, Afro, with Who Are You still being up in this fight. Void going to be able to get a huge rampage. And now here comes the B and the Blade coming in. Becky gets shut down by Void. Void survivability once again has prevailed here as Who Are You are going to clear the stage here with the Blade.
I mean, I talk about Shanghai Dragons not overstepping. They're showing Valiant a lot of respect, but the same on the opposite end is not true here. Valiant get ultra greedy there. They have a major player advantage. They're thinking it's a 5v3. Voice just rampaged us. It's a 4-man rampage, but don't worry about it. Will there? They don't rally. They don't sound bad. Everyone's on low HP after the rampage, and Dragons turn the fight around.
Now they use the rally and in combination with the shout. Dia's being reserved with the rampage before using it right now to try to dive in. Finds 3, pretty big here if they can find Izuyaki for trying to get away. Void also falling extremely low. The re-sustainability though coming in from the Dragons. The fact that they stay up, Void still lives. He's so low. Overtime ticking away. 99%, but the Valiants managed to try to claim the number advantage with Who Are You still taking care of Molly.
Yeah, well, that will finally be the Valiant coming on through, despite the sort of failure to catch Void there. They'll eventually get him. They'll eventually get the cap.
He's alive.
Try and make this one competitive. It's 99-51. Void lived for an unreasonable amount of time there. LA Valiant barely get that one across the line. This is going to be a fresh neutral. No ultimates available on either side. Nobody even close to an ultimate. The largest, most charged member is Izuyaki. But Lee Jae-gon just getting a solo, I believe, onto Easy Hunt. Might be Dragon's advantage. 4-4.
Lee Jae-gon always in these aggressive positions too to be able to get that follow from Lip too when he gets that big hit. Now it takes care of Lisa. Molly going out. Now the Dragons are about to get right back to the point after clearing the rest of Valiant. That was both of their supports down first. As the overtime ticks away, the Valiant really have nowhere to touch that point. The Dragons with ease take map number 1 here on Busan.
Yeah. I mean, a little bit of back and forth there. Some trades did actually happen. Valiant, they're not going to go down without swinging, but most of the part they do miss, and for the most part, Dragons do hit. It is the Shanghai Dragons that are expected taking a 2-0. No 100-0 rounds in there, but for Valiant, man, that is a very interesting scenario where they had something like 4 to 5 ults up, double support ultimates, disrespected Void's rampage, and got heavily punished. I think if it wasn't for that, there would be a fair argument to make about perhaps the concept of LA Valiant getting around, taking us to a 3rd round, going to Sanctuary, seeing what happens here. But yeah, Valiant got a little bit too greedy there. They do get punished, and Shanghai Dragons, they'll be pleased with that.
Even with the way that Becky was playing in that side room, he was able to skirmish with the Dragons really, really well there. But unfortunately, like you mentioned, they didn't really have that respect for the Dragons once Void popped that rampage. It was insanity there too, because not only was the chaos there, but the sustainability of the rest of the Dragons was also there despite falling incredibly low. That's just the first map though. We got 2 more maps here underway. Map number 2, we are going on to Paraiso, so I'm super excited to see how this plays out. Don't go anywhere, because that's going to be on the other side of this break. welcome back everybody. First map already in the books here between the Dragons and the Valiant, with the Dragons taking a pretty dominating first map there, but there was a little bit of back and forth too, Avril.
Just a little bit of competitiveness, at least in some fights there. You know, it wasn't like a 100-0 sweep or anything like that. We've certainly seen far more dominant displays, but as kind of explained there during the map for the Dragons POV, you know, they're not looking like they're trying to embarrass a Valiant or anything like that, showing a lot of respect towards the Valiant. They're not trying to run into their spawn. They're not trying to overly chase. They're not playing super greedy in a lot of situations. There are some situations where they're definitely trying to hold extra ultimates or anything like that, but all within reason, all within parameters for the Shanghai Dragons. The Valiant, they're trying to get a little bit frisky here, but at the same time, I kind of respect it. I respect that Valiant, understanding that they are the heavy underdogs in this particular series here. They need to be the ones taking risks. They need to be the ones trying to, you know, sneak something through that the Dragons maybe won't punish, but Vicky, this is the Dragons we're talking about. In Dragons, if they're going to do anything, they will punish you if you make mistakes.
And in a map like this, I'm super excited too, because this is where you could get punished really heavily, especially before you get that first point. Paraiso, I got to see you and Leg Day cast on this map just last weekend, and it's nice to be able to see a change of scenery here too for myself, because now this is going to be my first time going to be casting over a beautiful map like this.
And you know, one of the expectations on a map is, well, for this particular map on Paraiso is you have a very difficult A push, right? It's typically very defender favored. High ground control matters a lot. In fact, it matters enough that Easy Hunt and Becky want some of that long range, right? Easy Hunt wants to potentially snipe. Who are you going towards an Echo? Becky wants to start on the Echo, just to have the extra spam damage, really punish the Dragons as they have to push on through. I do wonder the validity of this Sombra pick from Lip, because what we have seen in the past is Seoul Dynasty like to play Fitz on a Tracer here to get the flank going to force the defenders on A to go back. Lip's had a couple of options. He looked at the Sombra, he looked at the Widowmaker, took a couple of pot shots even, and it will be the Ashe as the response here, but it does slow things down. If Dragons want to make quick rotation plays, Ashe is not the answer. So it seems like maybe Dragons want to play this A point slowly.
Played into what Valiant has in store for us too. Becky on the Echo as Molly gets taken down immediately. That's not trickiness when it comes to having to go underneath that bridge, but if you get caught sleeping over on the top side and the rest of your team has already rotated out, you're going to be the one that's isolated here, especially if you are dealing with the Dragons, who really take care of that opportunity. Now they're walking out to the point for free here as the Valiant are just waiting.
And you know, they're still here. Valiant are waiting for 5, so Molly's come back now. The giveaway 2 ticks, they'll instantly come back in. I think there's one Dragons player maybe isolated, and that's going to be Lip.
Ooh. Oh, that was beautiful right there. Nice trade though, no, as Dia's going to be able to get taken down, but it's Who Are You that's been a huge problem from the Dragons. Now the Valiant down 3 members here, make it 4 going counting, and the Dragons are going to be able to take control over this point and already get the payload moving really quick too, and it's that first point that sometimes it ends up being tricky.
It's very much just coming down to Who Are You and his aggression coming through. I said that maybe Dragons wanted to approach that one slowly because they do have the Ashe. While Lip can approach it slowly, he can chill out and sort of snipe from the background, but Who Are You is going to dive straight on in. He's going to get really aggro and he'll get rewarded with a kill into Molly. That's a 5 versus 4. They get 2 ticks for free. Valiant play the 5v5 once Molly arrives, and they even kill Lip, but it's instantly traded out. Dragons get the better of the trades ultimately, and as we move through the streets, should be ultimates coming online. Izuyaki, Who Are You, all looking very healthy towards ults. Becky can get this copy up as well. Typically, you will see the Jungle Queen copy.
And that point B could be tricky here too, with the high ground advantage that you could get in between a lot of these skirmishes inside these buildings, as Who Are You is going to be able to reflect all inside of that small room, backing off ever so slightly. Izuyaki does have that rally though, and Lee Jae-gon does have the sound barrier to help match alongside with him here though. So the rally now is going to get called in. Here comes that duplicate that you were mentioning onto the Jungle Queen. See if they can get a lot out of it. Oh, huge actually! Being able to catch Who Are You in the middle of him trying to dive with that Dragon Blade. Amazing timing and the survivability from the Valiant. Thanks to that sound barrier was also great in combination with the commanding shout.
That was unreal from Becky. Disgusting knife throw. Just destroys Who Are You. I think Who Are You already ate a shot from somewhere else, because a single knife isn't going to get a kill on a full HP Genji. Who Are You already took some damage, but just a finishing blow. That's extra 10 out of 10 style points from Becky, if anything else. And I was going to say as well, Valiant looked like they were going to be too far behind the support ultimates. Dragons pulled the trigger on the support ultimates early because they have them. But Valiant, off the back of having 2 Jungle Queens, really powerful, double shouts, gives a bit of time for Lengset to also find that sound barrier to push on through. And the Shanghai Dragons end up taking a fight loss on the second engagement. Payload didn't make some reasonable movements though, but Valiant have stabilize, or Lip can just get a kill.
It's that first pick that's so important here that Lip usually does, and with Easy Hunt off the board, no Bob. Instead, it's Lip's Bob that's going to answer back as another party here. Not only is he going to help out pushing out the payload, but now Lip is going to be able to try to get onto the high ground if he has the opportunity. You can see the rest of the Valiant actually showing that respect to the Dragons, backing off so that way they can move in with the Bob now, and now they're going to be moving it as a 6-man with the Bob on board. Ooh, here we go, though. He goes with the Rampage there, too.
Yep.
Yeah, you're going to be able to fight Void and Who Are You. Void gets taken down immediately right afterwards, though, by Dia. It's a trade, though, as Who Are You is going to punish him for being able to try to take care of Void. Now you can see the Valiant, though, with this respect. They're playing outside of the payload, but the Dragons also just waiting out.
Valiant have closer respawns here, so Dia's going to come back a little bit quicker. Decent connection, but oh my goodness, Becky actually gets punished there. I thought Becky was going to have that kill for sure onto Iziaki, but as soon as he tried to go for it, he was booped out. The beam does not connect, and Who Are You goes for the kill. So despite Dia having the closer respawns, Void's back now. This is a 5v4 for the Dragons.
You see, they have the opportunity. Who Are You getting close to that blade, but Becky's always close to that duplicate as well. We saw what Becky could do, popping that Junker Queen. If he could survive, though, that's the name of the game as Becky gets taken down. Lee Jae-gon getting into position thanks to that rally from Iziaki. He gets taken down, but it's fine. The rest of the Dragons having this trade after giving up Iziaki are going to be able to try to claim that next point, and now they're going to be able to have some of that extra time. They are now melting through and already pushing all the way up. Look at Lee Jae-gon. He's going all for Becky, who goes down. Who Are You? He's going to help enable him, and they are having some fun, Avril.
Yeah, I gotta say, this is. I said the Dragons were playing respectfully. Maybe the one person that doesn't really fit that is going to be Lee Jae-gon, right? He is, as I mentioned, he likes to play on the edge between feeding and godlike. So doesn't get punished yet. He is going to survive. In fact, he even sets up the layup for Who Are You to get the slam dunk onto Becky. And the LA Valley will have to. Well, they have already now waited for the respawn. Becky very close to maybe getting the Void with the
Oh, he gets Void again! Oh man, with that Jagged Blade there too, the duplicate having a lot out of that. The Dragons immediately just try to show their respect. That'd be crazy if he actually was able to pull him off of that high ground. That could have been another pick. See Lee Jae-gon though doing exactly what Abra was calling out. Playing a little too close to the fire when you see the rest of the Dragons have backed off a little bit.
Yeah, Becky goes for the Rampage there, the duplicated Rampage, and well, he'll miss, but he had no time left anyway. He just kind of throws it out there for fun. Dragons still okay. I think they can still finish this one. The biggest thing here with the Dragons is that despite losing, they've held on to ultimates, so they're still in a couple of spots. Who Are You just needs to make sure he doesn't die during this play.
Now with this blade here and with the Bob also in retaliation, despite the sound barrier getting put down by the Valiant, Dia won't be able to get saved here. The rally was also used up by Valiant, so a lot of resources forced out of the Valiant, but they will have the Rampage. They do still have the Bob themselves. Dragons also answered back with a plethora of ultimates too, but they wanted to prioritize that high ground position first. Wow.
Another kill from Easy Hunt to Lee Jae-gon. That's 2 in a row now. I don't actually know where Lee Jae-gon was. Seems like his corpse is just in the middle there. That's not like extremely far up. I think the rest of the Dragons were there anyway. Maybe it's just Easy Hunt getting one of those shots on a player that he knows he can take him down. But it does force the Dragons back immediately. Dragons don't want any of that. It's going to be a 4v5 until Lee Jae-gon comes back in. Notable time loss for the Dragons. I'm talking about the Dragons holding on to ultimates and being okay economically. Well, that's not quite there anymore.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. The Rampage, a little overzealous, but coming out on top here from Dia. With that Rampage found 4, I believe. Void gets taken down. Dia is really pushing in front of them, actually managing to survive. Yeah, they helped enable Dia to actually hold the front line, and they got extra aggressive. Now Void's going to be able to come back with the Rampage of themselves, but they whittled away a big amount of that time bank from the Dragons.
Well, somebody died there. I thought maybe it was going to be Dia, but the rest of Valiant came on in to sacrifice somebody else so that Dia can live. They wanted to save Dia. Molly gets caught. Dragons will push on forward. Valiant lose space, but they will at least have the respawns up. This is now not looking great in terms of time for the Dragons, but they actually want to be up the cap. There's a Bob that can delay things further as well from Easy Hunt. This Rampage now from Void has to be pretty big.
Actually big right here too, and from Who Are You to dive into everybody with the dash reset here too. The Bob gets taken out from Easy Hunt, but it doesn't matter to Who Are You, who is nearing that blade. Somebody needs to touch the point real quick. They are going to be able to contest, but it's only going to be Molly here who is going to be able to at least try to poke. The Dragons end up taking that payload to the finish line.
Yeah, Void actually missed his ult completely, but it doesn't matter because they just cap anyway. I think that it was the fear factor of the ultimate, right? It's just like, I'm going to rampage here. You are all going to get out of the way, but if you all get out of the way, no one's going to touch the payload. So, yeah, he completely misses, but Valiant missed the payload, so who really wins at the end of the day? I think I'll give that one to Dragons with 14 seconds remaining on the clock as well. So they do cap barely just. A couple of really competitive fights there from the LA Valiant on the C point in particular. I think they won a point on, yeah, they won a couple fights on B there as well, but mostly it was C that they were able to push the Dragons back, bleed their ultimate economy down, get the better Dragons in several cases there as well. A couple small skirmishes where Easy Hunt just snipes out Lee Gon. I'm a little concerned that Valiant stayed on the Echo for a long time, though. I don't think Echo really has a lot of value on C. I think Echo's main value is on A and B, where you can sort of abuse the high ground difference. On C, that just doesn't really exist. But I also think as Lee Gon checks out the beach a little bit in Rio.
Taking a break, kind of getting ready for the Summer Showdown.
Yeah, I bet. That for the Valiant, though, this is a comfort pick for Becky, because we actually saw in a previous series from the Valiant, I think it was the Spark game actually, that Becky started to move away more from the Genji and move towards the Echo. Not necessarily because they believe it's a better pick, but just because it's a better comfort pick specifically for Becky.
You can see how much impact Becky had gotten from the duplicates from the Junker Queen. But you have to consider the impact that we've been seeing from the Genjis versus the Echoes. We've been seeing a different variation between whether Echo should work, whether the Mei even looking at NA should work here too. But already coming out of the gates, Easy on falling a little bit low. Oh yeah, just specifically London. And they do that a lot too. They were doing that back in the day with contenders. And
that's the thing about, this is why Becky goes towards the Echo and Backbone goes towards the Mei. These are very strong comfort picks where for those players it's kind of part of their specialty, right? But no other team is really going as hard in that direction as they are. This is Dragons now on their A defense. We talked about how hard A can be to cap, so what's Valiant's movement like? Are they going to be trying to just force their way through, brute force under the bridge? Are they going to try and take the bridge? Actually, because they push through now, they actually have the access to the stairs, and because they have that side of the map, you can see that Dragons respecting their back out.
And that actually could play into Becky's plan here too, because you could have the split from Valiant try to take control over the high ground, because it's going past that first point where half of the team is already on the high ground, so they have the advantage position-wise. See the disruptor shot coming down to control some of that space here. Becky, though, managed to survive, actually getting out of that situation. Who are you, though? Going to be able to also try to contest. Becky falling low once again. Hopefully he's able to resustain. As you can see, Dia now falling low too. Lip playing off this off angle, though, uninterrupted over to the side.
Dragons, they're low HP, but they're healing up. I mean, they have the plays available. Now they can punish Becky, who's on the big boy flank, and, well, Linksil will be there as well. He at least kills Lip. I don't know that Dragons, or rather that Valiant, can actually use that kill, given Lee Gon, given that Link's died, but with Lee Gon dying, I think both teams are just going to be fairly low numbers. Or fairly low, yeah, well, Dragons will certainly be on the 4 currently. With Lee Gon still coming back from as well, maybe Valiant can have a window here.
They have that opportunity. Linksil will be able to get into the fight faster here. It also has that sound barrier ready. My eyes are on Who Are You and how the impact of this Dragon Blade is going to look like here as well. We go as Xeon falls down from the high ground. Here comes the sound barrier to help enable the rest of Valiant. Lee Gon gets here on time though, and also has a sound barrier used up for the Dragons. But Lip gets taken out, but not before 2 of Valiant get taken out first. That means they won't have the rally, as Molly was the first one to go down. Easy Hunt as well, and Who Are You is looking to clean up the rest of Valiant.
Just Becky alive now. A long-range whip shot. That was pretty cool from Iziaki again.
Wow.
Getting out here for style points on a max-range whip shot on a flying hero. LA Valiant, though, they had a small window there where they're trying to use the 5v4 that was generated from Lee Gon going down. But remember, Lee Gon is still a Lucio, still comes back and still saves the day with the sound barrier. And Who Are You? Pulls played, it's successful. Linksa can't do more. Tries to defend with the sound barrier, but it's not enough. Minute left now with 1 tick gone. Valiant can still cap this one. They have one big fight coming in. This is, I think, the last really good fight from them, because after this, it's just about desperation touches with no resources. Here, they got duplicate, they have Rampage available, and there's no reaching on sound barrier, and Who Are You dead?
Oh, Who are you going down here is going to work into the Valiant plans, especially after using that rally. They also still have that Rampage as Easyhan unleashes the overclock real quick with that railgun. Big Rampage, though, coming in from Void. Does find 2. Does it find Lexa's life, though? Oh, he's still alive. He manages to survive right through that. Easyhan now finds Void. The Valiant's actually coming on top with another big duplicate coming in from Becky now here, too. Gets the Rampage. See ya later. Finds 2. Who are you, Izuyaki? But it's about the space that they needed so that way they could get this point.
My goodness, Izuyaki somehow lives there. It's like, well, you just dies to the bleed, and well, because he loses his duplicate form, it just looks like you died to nothing, but we'll go down to the duplicate Rampage, and Valiant, oh my goodness, what a pick from Easyhan. That rail onto Who Are You was everything. I mean, yeah, okay, the rest of the ultimates from Valiant were great. Becky's duplicate into the duplicate Rampage, fantastic, but they wouldn't have had that opportunity if Easyhan doesn't open the door for the Valiant to walk through.
And that's the beauty here. That's what you need from Easyhan when you don't have the Genji and Becky wants to focus on building up that duplicate. You need Easyhan to open that up for you. And with Dia still holding onto the Rampage, this is looking great, controlling the next corner here as the rest of the Dragons escape from that side room. Becky is ready to continuously put some of that pressure. He falls super low, though. He falls low. He may be overextended just a bit too much than he expected, as Lip is going to be able to find him.
Yeah, I mean, I think he thought the Dragons were disengaged, but Dragons kind of did a bit of a turn and burn. They walked away, came back in, and realized it was only Becky by himself in that situation, and with no fly available, and Lip just destroys him. So Valiant now are the ones that are actually down. They got good payload movement, but they haven't been able to crack this defense inside this sort of green building that Dragons have holed up, and this is, I think, the main defensible location on B. You see a lot of teams play this roof area. Dia desperately wants to go for this Rampage. Does he go for it, though? It's not the easiest Rampage to hit.
Especially in this side room right here, too. It can be very risky depending on where Dragons could escape to as Who Are You gets taken down here. This is big. Dia now with the Rampage finds 2. Lee Jae gone to answer back with the Sound Barrier, try to keep everybody from Dragons alive as Who Are You's going to make his way back with the Blade from Spawn. Valiant, though, are looking for the fantastic when it comes to controlling not just the payload, but these next corners. They're moving up ahead, but Izuyaki with the rally and Who Are You with the Blade is something that you don't want to be in the line of sight for if you're the Valiant.
And also the overclock as well, because Valiant just disengaged from. Valiant actually had the player advantage, but they just respect the ultimates coming through from Dragons a little bit too hard here. Sound barriers coming through for Rally.
Oh, Sound Barrier now, the rally coming in from
Becky,
Molly
99.
as Who Are You with the Blade. He has the opportunity as Becky gets taken out, won't even be able to use the duplicate in this situation. And with less than 50 seconds on the clock, 40 seconds and counting down, now the Valiant need to regroup and they need to really take advantage of this next duplicate that Becky has online.
Late death on the link, so that'll cost them more time. That's time that Valiant can't afford. And Who Are You at that stage was playing with his eyes closed, quite literally, as we saw in the cam. It's just the frozen cam, we know. But Becky does it 99%. That is pretty tragic, because if Becky had the duplicate available, he actually saved himself from the Blade. He can even just copy the Genji. I mean, a duplicate of Genji is still really good in that situation. Void hits 3.
Oh, big Rampage. Yep, hits 3, hits Molly, makes Molly go all the way down, only leaving Lexa for that sustainability for the rest of Valiant. Dia says it's not enough as Izuyaki goes swinging to the sky, finds Dia, finds Molly, and now the rest of the Valiant are trickling down overtime, taking away with just Becky and their duplicate just holding on for dear life. But the Dragons know it's going to be a GG as they clean up the Valiant and clean up this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's still competitive, right? I mean, I think that just might be the story. That might be the final message written on the tombstone for Valiant in this match. And, you know, what it'll say is LA Valiant, it was competitive, but it wasn't a map win. They can't get any maps here, so at least not so far. Still a 2-0 for the Shanghai Dragons, still match point for the Shanghai Dragons. Again, we expected this. I think LA Valiant expected this. Dragons expected this. Everybody watching knows that this is a pretty large diff in terms of Dragons being right at the top of the table and Valiant being literally at the bottom of the table, right? This is just kind of how it is. I'm glad that Valiant are doing their best to keep it competitive. They're getting kills, they're getting fight wins, they're actually getting points here. They're not getting locked out at full health, which is good to see, but it's not enough to beat the Dragons.
And the Dragons have been on a different level, and that's why we were expecting this, you know, going into this series. Like you mentioned, Dragons up right now and sitting at match point. We still got one more map on our hands, though. You don't want to miss out on it. It's going to be Dorado on the other side of this break. Welcome back, everyone. We just finished wrapping up map number 2 here in our second series of the day between the Dragons versus the Valiant, and the Dragons are looking to end it all, Avril. We still got one more map, though, again, on our hands, going into Dorado.
Yeah, it's, again, a pretty expected result. I just don't think there's, you know, too much to say in terms of Valiant currently being 0-2 down. You expect them to be 0-2 down. You expect the Dragons to be this good. They are just unbelievably strong in this meta currently, led by Huayu's Genji. Any meta where Huayu gets to play Genji for the Dragons this year has been phenomenal. Kickoff Clash, Summer Showdown, and then in Mid-Season Madness, no Genji meta, no Huayu. Dragons, that was kind of when they looked their worst, and currently they're back at looking their best. And when Dragons are looking their best, it doesn't seem like anyone can really stand in their way, and certainly not the Valiant today. As we head into map number 3, I actually have a really interesting stat line to share that really kind of maybe adds a bit different perspective on the game so far. On Paraiso specifically, damage-wise, Valiant were on par with Dragons. Dragons did 45,215 damage as a team. LA Valiant did 45,190 damage. The difference between damage of the two teams is only 25. 25 damage. Wow. That's like less than a quick melee. Less than a quick melee's worth of damage is the difference between the two teams. And yet, it feels like Dragons are monstrously ahead, right? It feels like Dragons are untouchable. They're invincible. LA Valiant can't do anything. And yet, 25 damage is the difference between the two teams. Dragons have 11 more kills to deaths than the Valiant do. So Valiant's overall team scoreline, 22 kills to 33 deaths. And then Dragons, obviously the opposite, 33 kills to 22 deaths. So they have 33% more final blows while only doing 25 more damage than the Valiant. So what that says to me is that Valiant are very competitive in being able to put the damage in and actually like keeping up stat line wise with the Dragons in terms of the threat levels and the pressure via damage, but they're losing out on a lot of other different areas because they don't have the same focus, the team play might not be as high, obviously, and they don't have the ability to sort of execute on the damage and convert on further kills that the Dragons do. So yeah, you might only be 25 damage behind, but you can't convert the damage into kills the way that Shanghai can.
I'm so glad you bring up that stat point because we saw it on Paraiso, actually, on the defense. The way that the Valiant, in the first point, were actually able to contest the Dragons. And even on Busan, it wasn't a mollywop or anything like that. They were going back and forth quite a bit. It wasn't like it was quite literally 100-0 or anything. So the Valiant have been able to put down that damage, but it also tells you that the Dragons have had that impact, especially when it comes to cycling through those ults, specifically the survivability that we've been seeing between Void, Huaru's Blades, especially those initial pickups, and dealing with Becky and the duplicate as Huaru's already taking control over the high ground here.
Yeah, so, you know, I think there's hope for the Valiant yet. There seem to be, you know, certain margins away from finding success, but Dragons can just turn those other margins and make them look like chasms, make them look like giant diffs, when in reality, it's not a disgustingly large diff, but it's enough that the Dragons look much better. Dragons have been a little bit careful here. Lip nearly got caught.
Oh.
In fact, DJ Gone trying to help his team does get caught.
Dia with that shout, going to be able to at least allow them to find Lee Jae-gon, but Dia pays the price for it with Huaru capitalizing in that situation. The spawn advantage does go in favor here of the Dragons, so they're just going to be able to stroll this payload by while the Valiant need to give their respect, need to back off if they have the opportunity, but Huaru is not letting Becky get away so easily. Neither will Molly, and the Valiant just didn't back away in time.
And this is now Huaru cleaning things up. Valiant out of this fight because Molly is not here. This will be a 4v5 even if they do come on in. Lip is getting the damage into even through the dynamite. That must have been a long-range dynamite on the easy hunt. And Valiant, okay, they understand. They're already setting up for B. They're trying to set up on this high ground. Lip is making this as difficult as possible. In fact, he's almost single-handedly pushing the Valiant off. While that's happening, Dragons continue pushing on through. What is this? Lee Jae-gon's even going to make plays happen.
Oh! I'm never gonna forget the way you described it here, Avril. Always playing a little too close to the fire. You know, it's always on that border as the shout comes in. Valiant move in with Becky about to get close to that duplicate. See Becky just trying to use that focusing beam here, but they're playing around this next choke point by this wall, and it's so important to be able to get Izayaki as he does, but he costs his own life for it. So they go in for that trade. Now the rest of Valiant don't have the bodies left up alive to contest with that extra pressure that the Becky has been really able to put out.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, Valiant, this time it does feel like a bit more of a difference where Dragons have just won every single fight consecutively. Valiant have gotten a few kills, but not enough to really impact the Dragons' push because Dragons have continued to move the payload through. Even when they have to respawn, by the time the Dragons respawners come back in, or rather by the time Valiant want to fight, Dragons respawners have indeed come back in, and now they will have the earlier ultimates as well, so the snowball does indeed continue. Maybe Becky could be a difference maker here. I mean, you have double Bobs, could be dueling Bobs in this fight.
See if Becky has that opportunity, just going back and forth to the high ground as the Bob comes in from Lip. EasyHan won't be able to contest with the Bob themselves because they get taken out by Lip before that Bob comes out.
Oh, Becky
Here comes the rally now from Valiant. Yeah, Molly no, and now going to be able to find Lee Jae-gon. Big rampage though, onto 4. The survivability though as Lexa pops the sound barrier. Can Dia stay alive? Who Are You is a big problem though as Dia falls low. Dia won't be able to live through that as Who Are You still uncontested, still unchecked. Even with that rampage, even with the shout here, the Dragons have been dominating and have been kept alive the whole time.
Now the sound barrier will keep them alive further on as well as the Bob comes on through, but to no avail. I believe it gets pushed away, gets booped off, so the cap is going to come on through unimpeded. Still 4 minutes and 45 for the Dragons pushing through on towards C, and Dia's life will be for forfeit here as well as the Valiant will just lose extra members. I believe he might have gotten a bad respawn, or maybe he just couldn't back out in time. Yeah, Dragons, they're completely unimpeded. So much time as Valiant have not won a single fight. They got some kills in there, but they can't win these fights.
Doesn't look like we were expecting here, especially with the way that Dragons have been dominating the APAC region. Now Void is on a tear. Now you have Lip on the high ground. You have them trying to split the Valiant up while they want to try to contest that payload, want to prevent it from going around the corner, but Lexa gets isolated. Who Are You has been having so much impact right now, and the follow-up too off of that shout is going to allow them to still clean up. But yeah, now he's going to be able to heal up though, as Void is going to be the one person for the Dragons to go down, but Who Are You is still cleaning up. He's still pushing all the way to the spawn before. Real quick, flexing. You know what it is here when it comes to Who Are You.
Yeah, it's like 33 HP or something like that, below 50 HP, but just it's flickering up and down as Lee Jae-gon and Izayaki keep him alive, right? The healing is just so good from the supports. Bob now to potentially finish the map. Bob looks like he goes a little bit deep here, but I don't think it matters. Valiant, what can they even do against it?
Not much here as well, Avril. You have the trades coming in, but you have nobody from the Valiant touching the point. Who Are You was too busy cleaning everybody up with the blade in the back. There was so much pressure that the Dragons are putting down at the very end. They didn't get stopped at all.
Wow. 322. I actually need to do a bit of checking in it because I believe Seoul versus Chengdu set a new league record in Dorado attacking time in terms of how fast it was, and now I need to check it again to remember. I can't remember what the time was. We'll figure it out. We'll get back to it. I will bring it up before the end of today, but for now it's what we got to know is 322 is unbelievable, right? That's an insanely fast time. That is about one of the fastest times you can get on this map. I mean, that's I don't know if that's quite a world record yet, but it's certainly up there for me.
The fastest I've been able to see, and just the way that Dragons were able to keep up not only their momentum, but their positioning, controlling the next corners. I mean, Who Are You was on another level. Even though Void did sacrifice himself, I believe twice at the very end, it was well worth it there to help Who Are You get put into that position. Right. His blades, too, were insane.
All right, so I did go back and check the current league record for Dorado attack is a 4:17 time back. Seoul versus Chengdu Hunters this stage this year. So this is not quite as good as that. It's about 55 seconds worse, but still very quick. I mean, it's incredibly quick. It's not 4:17, but it's 3:22. You take those. In fact, that's probably 3:22 more than Valiant could afford to give away.
EasyHan actually making some quick adjustments, swapping over to the Bastion before trying to maybe see if he could get something going before making another swap back. This is going to waste some time, and that is definitely going to waste some time for the Valiant there too, as Dia is the first to get taken out by Lip, Who Are You going to also clean up Molly, now forcing the Valiant to play a lot more passively, but they didn't have EasyHan there in that fight at the very beginning.
I actually think EasyHan playing the Widowmaker, he was trying to go for some snipes. I was going to say maybe it makes a little bit of sense as out of spawn, you can sort of go for those types of plays. Your likely targets end up having to be While Lip and Lee Jae-gon really, unless Izayaki doesn't have shield up. They're going to play the standard here. Becky with the beam on deploy. They actually got him below half. Interesting.
That's really nice here too. Izayaki also falls incredibly low here too, but Who Are You controls the front lines as Izayaki gets isolated by Dia, gets taken out. Lexa putting Dia in that position there too with the sound amp speed buff here, and the Valiant are going to be able to actually clear this next corner. Good looks here for the Valiant, but did whittle a good amount of time away from their time bank.
That's pretty impressive from Becky, you know, just finding the opportunity. They put the damage into Void, he cleans up with the focusing beam, and well, the LA Valiant will start getting some push, and Dragons will come back for a final contest. The payload is not far up enough for the Dragons to give it up, and Dragons have members, and they have a frag, so they have a 5v4 now as well.
Here we go. Becky getting taken out now. Won't be able to build into that duplicate. Lip is going to be able to also help take care of Dia. Now this is going to also allow Dragons to reposition onto the high ground right here. Oh, losing your back. Easy headset, and Lip is going to get taken down, and Becky now having the duplicate. You see the Dragons forcibly have to back off, but they were so quick with the disengagement. Really good awareness here from the Dragons.
Dragons are going to fight this one. They're not actually going to back up the entire way, so Lip is just going to have to come through from spawn. Lee Jae got sniped. 99% as well. That is deadly, and Dragons, again, they're committed. They're just going to have to go for this.
Yep, the Void died fighting on that point right there too. They didn't have the sound barrier, as you saw Lee Jae-gon being the first one to get picked off right there at the very end, as the Dragons are now going to try to prioritize, maybe trying to get back onto this high ground, but see Lip already getting contested with Lexa pushing all the way up with Easy on.
Alright, Becky dropped some bags. He did that to Alpha E in the Spark game as well, but alrighty. No, you respect. He's kind of carrying right now. He's doing a lot for the back. Well, actually, Easy Han carried the last fight because he got 2 frags in a row off the back of the rails. That one into Lee Jae-gon was really impactful, right? Kills him at 99. So Valiant making some movements. I mean, if there's a world where Valiant can cap, this is the kind of pacing they need. They got to keep this up, though. They got to really put Dragons, really put them behind, which requires them to win this fight big time, where both teams are on their 5 ultimates. Double spawn ultimates instantly pop, by the way.
Yep, sound barrier going to be used from the Valiant. Lee Jae-gon very patient with his own sound barrier. Just going to wait for the rally here too. Maybe trying to call out
the copy straight away.
Lip finding not just Becky and deleting the duplicate, but now Becky falls incredibly low. Also, 2 gets knocked out between Dia and Easy Han from the Valiant, and you can see the Dragons now holding in behind the payload, not even trying to prioritize the high ground real quick. He's like, all right, you're next if you could find it, but Becky still gets taken out by Lee Jae-gon.
Lip nearly got Linksa there as well, and unfortunately not clipping the head, but Linksa did get shot by that rail. How good was that disgustingly powerful shot onto Becky, though? Just gets rid of the Brigida copy. It's still interesting that Becky's going for the Brig copies. You would expect him to go for the Jungle Queen copies, but no, he's going for other copies and loses straight away. Leads dies straight away, and now Void will get 2.
Yep, between the Rampage and Izayaki now going to be able to flame 2 as well. Going to follow up from that Rampage. He said, no, that's for me. Leave it for me. And with that quick little 3K, I also want to shine here. Dia's dying with the Rampage at least for this next fight. But look at this time back now, Avro. It is ticking away. And Becky just waiting for the rest of Valley.
Well, he's a ninja.
He doesn't see him. He doesn't see him. He doesn't.
Oh, my goodness. He's hiding inside the box. Oh, he's
They know! Lip saw it!
and that, by the way, is the worst time for Becky to die, because Valiant were about to push in. And now they might get punished on the exit. They do.
Wow. Calculated right there. The way that they were able to just time that, though, too, in general, just to be able to claim that life. And now Dragons wasting even more time away from the Valiant.
Lip's like, that's not map geometry. That is not a box. All right, cardboard box doesn't belong there. Playing a little bit of Overwatch prop hunt. I've queued up in those games.
Oh wow, the sound barrier, the aggressive sound barrier from Lee Jae-gon. It does cost Izayaki's life, but they still find Molly, which is great. Here comes the Rampage, though, huge right now. Gonna find Lip, Who Are You, and Void. Lip gets taken out, Void falling incredibly low. Without Lee Jae-gon, doesn't really have that sustainability here, as the Valiant now have another opportunity to reclaim this high ground and get this payload moving.
And the payload hasn't been moving for some time. It actually rolled back quite a decent amount. So now finally coming to the final bridge. At minimum, Dragons get to fight in this open space now in the courtyard for what could be Valiant's final engage. Less than 1 minute now. No ultimates, thanks to possibly dead if he's not careful. Does manage to just hide away inside the bank. In fact, bank is where Valiant want to go now. They're looking like to potentially push through for a full flank. Becky playing extremities.
Lip playing off of this backline though here on the high ground is also going to force Valiant to split their attention between these two high grounds that Paraiso is also holding with Lee Jae-gon. Because you currently see who's going to try to contest Lip here in this situation. Becky's about to get this duplicate as well, and Lexa's going to have that sound barrier.
Yeah, they're definitely now in final fight territory because Valiant had kind of used the last 30 seconds to look around the map, explore the bank a little bit, make a withdrawal maybe, and hopefully they took a lot of money out because they've got to spend big here. They need some ultimates for sure as they're still waiting for Becky and Easy Han. Probably aren't even going to go for this until the OT. Dragons are happy about that. They don't mind. They want to wait till the OT. They want to wait for the Rampage from Void.
No reason for them here as they're going to be able to just wait off to the side, see what Valiant going to do as they touch onto the payload. Force the overtime now as Becky finds Lip. That's a big pick now. Becky with the duplicate into the Junker Queen as well. Here comes the rally. Here comes the sound barrier as Izayaki does pop that rally, but Molly's being a lot more reserved with it. I like this option from the Valiant. Despite the overtime ticking away, they were patient and precise with the way that they were able to time those ultimates.
They got away with everything there. You got all the money out of the bank there. That was a heist, and Valiant now they're breaking towards Sia. Emote coming through from Becky as he just sits on top of Lip's body. In fact, two of them. That was a brilliant fight from the LA Valiant, and now for the Shanghai Dragons, they actually spent ultimates there as well. Again, Lip got shut down immediately by Becky. So I guess the emote was well earned because Becky kind of rolled Lip in that fight. Lip goes for the overclock. Becky destroys him. The Shanghai Dragons onto the C defense. Still though, Valiant not out of the hot waters just yet. Less than a minute to finish the map. It's not looking great.
They're about to get that Rampage though online here, Avril, and Molly does still have that rally. Was very patient with it in that last fight. Didn't burn it out just yet. Here comes Void with the Rampage. Does find 3. Molly answers right back though with the rally too. You can see the Valiant now gonna try to back up just a bit before having to re-engage with their limited time bank. Less than 30 seconds now on the clock.
I think Void got booped as well, but he still managed to just clip a few members. Speaking of clipping members, that will be Dia running on through that, countered by the sound barrier. Izayaki still low, still there.
Oh, he gets taken out. Lip follow low too and gets taken out as well by Dia and Becky. Now the Valiant have an opportunity, but they traded for their support lineup here too. So Lexa won't be able to build up into that sound barrier for that last fight territory. Now less than 10 seconds. Dia now dying late.
Yeah, this is the problem, is the Valiant lost double support, so they couldn't heal up, like you said, so they couldn't reset properly. Dia, does he come back on a Wrecking Ball? He doesn't know how to play a Wrecking Ball. That's not one of his heroes. He goes towards the Doomfist. That's more likely something that he can play, but just, well, they couldn't touch the point. I don't know if I would count that as a C9. Linksa tried to go for it. He would have died anyway, and Dia is still trying to come back from spawn. I'm fairly certain it makes no difference whether the touch happens there or not. It's not like they were in a winning position. They won't continue the fight. But had they continued the fight, it's like a 90% chance that Dragons kind of just win and clean up. It's Valiant, unfortunately, in the second to last final engagement there. Linksa Molly dead. The rest of Valiant not in a position to reset. Dia dies. Less than 10 seconds remaining. You can't really respawn in time. Yeah, I mean, to me, that's a guaranteed GG for
especially when
those
picks, unfortunately, that were taken out from Valiant were the support lineup. You like we mentioned, didn't have the sustainability at the very end. Would have been great to at least try to build up that sound barrier at the end too, but you were the first one to go out, and then you had less than 10 seconds. It was already that limited time bank that the Dragons took away from the Valiant in that second point before, rather, that Valiant was unable to get that to that second point for quite some time.
Yeah, and I don't think you can be too disappointed with this loss. And, I'm looking at the Valiant cams. They look really calm. And compared to what they were when they lost to Fusion and Guangzhou, where those were map 5s, I mean, they look devastated losing those map 5s. Here, it's like, I can't ask for too much more. Got competitive, capped a couple of points, is what it is. And with that, Dragons remain undefeated, 5-0 now. Dia's even smiling. I'm sure they're just working up to playing that Hunters game for Dragons, working up to playing that Soul game. And speaking of working up, I'm sure you worked up a bit of a sweat today because he had the team again on his back. It's going to be player of the match on the Genji. Dominant display the entire way through. Genji, I think, is the most important hero in this meta, even more so than the Junker Queen. And it really shows when players like Who Are You get to step into the arena and do this to their opponents.
And it kind of goes down to what we were talking about before when we were isolating the Dragons and the Dynasty for what they've been able to accomplish in this stage. It highlights what good Genji plays do for the team here, and that's why the Shanghai Dragons are dominating right now in a meta like this. And who are you? Getting enabled not just with the commanding shout, but you could see the confidence when he pushes all the way up. He's controlling so much space between the speed boost too from his Lucio. He's able to get into that position. Aside from just having to rely on that commanding shout, he's always in the front lines, and he was getting so much impact in those last few games against the Valiant. You could see right here, 31 final blows, 69 eliminations. It's amazing right there, real nice. As ultimate kills, you saw the 9 with the Blade, but it was the way that he was also able to use the Blade to get those high impact kills, especially when it comes to the support lineup of the Valiant that were caught off guard and were isolated from the rest of the team a few times that we saw.
Yeah, and again, pretty flawless in terms of, and this is a stat line that's not represented here, but I can just tell you, on Dorado, he had the lowest number of deaths across the board for both teams at 2. He only died twice that entire map, if you can believe that, as a Genji player, who's typically going to be found in the front lines. Only died twice. That's actually really impressive. The survivability of the guy as well. I mean, credit to his team. We saw him being on low HP, and Easy Archimedria Gon just continually keeps him up. But he, to me, on the attacking phase, I mean, A and B was all just who are you, slicing through people with getting multiple resets in a row and really putting the pressure on the Valiant, and that's what makes the difference.
Especially when you have to think about the duplicate as well from the Echo, having to use that with to copy the Junker Queen that we saw a few times, that high impact. Understand from who are you to understand when he needs to back away and when he needs to actually play for positioning or back away in time, so that way he doesn't feed that extra kill to the duplicate. Yep. So really good showcase here from the Dragons. I'm not surprised, of course, Avril, with the way that the Dragons have been performing in the stage.
Yeah, and the final thing to say here is that unfortunately, because Valiant do lose to the Dragons, they are out of contention for the Summer Showdown. They can no longer make the tournament, I think, at this stage. Well, I don't think you can really expect them to beat the Dragons. If they wanted to make the tournament, they would have had to have beaten probably Fusion or Charge, given that those were map 5s and close map 5s. For the Valiant, this was a gargantuan task ahead of them. They would have to go flawless for the rest of the tournament in terms of beating both Dragons and Hunters. Hunters are beatable for them, but the Dragons unfortunately are not, so Valiant are our first team eliminated from contention in day 1 of the final week here. But for the Dragons, the big game for them still awaits. El Clasico happening on Sunday versus Seoul. That is going to be the match of this entire qualifier to watch.
I'm super excited. We still have a lot of amazing matches coming up throughout the weekend, but that's it for this region. There's still a lot more action, though, going down today over in the West. You definitely don't want to miss out on that. But, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this really exciting last week of the Summer Showdown qualifiers. Avril, any last words real quick on what you're expecting for some of the matches that you could expect to see throughout the weekend to get our viewers excited?
And we've got a lot of great stuff. Dallas versus San Francisco Shock in the NA region. Gladiators taking on Atlanta as well to see if Glads can make it through. We have the Showdown happening tomorrow between Hangzhou and Guangzhou, who currently on a bit of a streak. El Clasico with Shanghai Seoul coming up as well. As I mentioned, Philly and Hangzhou developing their own rivalry this entire year. That's going to be happening on the final day, so plenty more to go through. But that will be my final day for this qualifier. So, Vicky, you got the long haul coming up ahead of you. Enjoy it. Have fun with it.
I'm glad to be back. It's been a long time, so I'm glad to be back. And of course, that was my first time. That was me able to cast Jotes in real time. So as a spectator, it's different. You know what to look out for. You know what to actually call out. Like you mentioned, the Genji being such a detrimental just pawn in this whole meta, and it's really important to have those isolated picks, whether it be your Sojourn getting that pick, or it is your Genji that's buying in that space and finding the isolated picks off of the Brigitte or off of the Sojourn themselves. So it's been a really good time. I'm excited to see how it plays off throughout the rest of the weekend, especially in this last week of the qualifiers to determine which of these teams are going to be moving on to the Summer Showdown tournament. But guys, that's it for us for today. Again, there's a lot more matches underway later today. You definitely don't want to miss out on that, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow.